Hey people, it is Sunday, October the 6th. The time is 3 p.m. and I think it's around 14 degrees Celsius, and I'm still here in North Bay. I'm actually just leaving my mom's house here in the north end of town in the Pinewood area, also sometimes called Gateway. And I'm going to make my way from here to the North Bay bus terminal, where I'll be catching my bus back to Toronto at 4:20 p.m. So I have more than enough time to make the walk. And the bus terminal is connected to the city's biggest shopping mall, Northgate Shopping Centre. So I'll probably just stroll around the mall for a bit before I have to get on the bus. But I'll take us right to the bus station so you can get a look at it. And I'm carrying my heavy bag here. Which kind of sucks. But the weather is surprisingly nice. It was supposed to be a rainy day today, and it was earlier. So I thought I wouldn't really be able to make this video without doing a rainy umbrella walk, which I probably wouldn't have been able to do since I'm already holding this bag in one hand. But luckily it cleared up, so I guess a video it is. I'm gonna take Algonquin Avenue here south into the downtown area. This is one of the major streets of North Bay. You can see the Laurentian Escarpment off to the north there. It's already got its fall colors in full swing. Fall comes to this area a bit earlier than in Toronto. I mean, the effects of fall. So we're heading south now down Algonquin Avenue. If you keep heading north, Algonquin Avenue eventually becomes Highway 11, just on the other side of the Trans-Canada Highway there. And that'll take you much further north into northern Ontario. If you want to go up to places such as the Tri-Towns, now called Timiskaming Shores, places like Crooklyn Lake, Timmins, Cochrane, Hearst, Kapuskasing. I might have to put the bag down and switch hands every now and again, actually. This is the Medical Arts Building. This part of town was once part of Woodfield Township, which was separate from the city of North Bay. I did a video previously where I was walking through an area called West Ferris Township, previously called West Ferris Township, which is now part of the city of North Bay also. So this is the other end of town from that video where I walked to the old North Bay Mall, which you might have seen by now. What's happening with this? I guess I can go. Oh, it's quite the big truck there. And there's a nice light breeze. across Norwood Avenue. Here comes Lansdowne Avenue on that side. This used to be the boundary where you would enter the city of North Bay from Woodfield Township pre-amalgamation. The amalgamation happened all the way back in 1968, so it's been quite a while. There's a big hill coming up that luckily we'll be walking down and not up. I did walk up it though on the way here after I arrived in town carrying this heavy bag. That was a lot of fun. The housing stock here is fairly old. It goes back at least 100 years or so. North Bay was incorporated as a city 99 years ago, almost 100. In 2025, it will be the 100th anniversary of its incorporation as a city. And it was incorporated as a town in 1891, I think, and founded in 1882. So definitely not a very old place compared to many of the towns in southern Ontario, or especially in Quebec in the Maritimes. And it's been roughly the same population for many decades now. The city tends to go through some cycles of growth and then stagnation, and even some small periods of decline, and then it'll maybe grow a bit again. So it's been sort of stuck between 50 and 60,000 people for the last 45 years or so. I think it's currently around 56,000 according to the latest estimates from Statistics Canada. There has been a bit of growth in the last few years. That's really affected most places across Canada due to the much higher rates of immigration. So it's good in a way that this might finally bring some growth to the city. To include the surrounding areas just outside North Bay proper, there are around 80,000 people in the census agglomeration, as they call it. So it's one of the bigger places in northern Ontario. I think there are only really 5 sizable cities in northern Ontario. We've got Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay, and Timmins. And this is also the southernmost of the Northern Ontario cities. It's considered the gateway to the north. As a matter of fact, the geographical divide between Northern and Southern Ontario runs right through the middle of town. Although no one calls the southern end of town Southern Ontario, North Bay is firmly considered Northern Ontario. And even if you travel an hour south of North Bay, it's still considered mostly Northern Ontario. It isn't until you get to the Muskoka area that people start to think of it differently. That's considered more Central Ontario. And North Bay is about an hour north of the Muskoka area. Driving time. There's a new building going up here. I think it's a retirement residence. This was the site of one of the former hospitals. There were 2 hospitals in this area that were both demolished when they built a new hospital out on the edge of town. So it's nice to see this huge vacant plot is finally seeing some development, although I would have liked to see a more imposing or taller building built here, but oh well. The old hospital that was there was actually a pretty good sized building, and you could see it from all over town, being it's perched up on this hill here. And the other hospital was nearby, and you could also see that from all around town. They were both pretty big hospitals, pretty large buildings. It's kind of a bummer that they're both been completely erased from the skyline of the city. So we're going down the hill. I'm going to take us down to Castle Street. And then we'll walk along Castle Street all the way to the Highway 1117 bypass. And Northgate Shopping Center is right near that highway intersection. And we can walk through a bit of the mall in order to get to the bus station. You could also walk around the mall, but I think walking through it would be much better for a video, wouldn't you say? I have done a video through that mall before, though, just over a year ago. It's the only really healthy shopping mall in town. The other one, as I mentioned, is a dead mall now. Here's the French high school, École Secondaire Algonquin. Everyone just called it Algonquin. Being as it's on Algonquin Avenue. I think this used to be called Clock Avenue, though, and they changed the name at some point. It's actually a nice old high school building here, the old wing anyway. It has a more modern addition just over here also. It wasn't always a French school, though. You can see the sign up there. It says North Bay Vocational School. It was later on it became a French Catholic high school. Erected in 1930, it says there. And here's the more modern edition, which is actually quite old now, too. I didn't go to this high school, though. I went to another one called Chippewa Secondary School, which still exists, but it's been altered quite a bit. It's now a shared facility. When I went there, it was a strictly grades 9 through 13 at the time high school. Later on, grade 13 was eliminated, but it was always a high school the whole time I lived in North Bay. After I left town, though, one of the nearby junior high schools closed down, and all the grade 7 and 8 students were moved into Chippewa to share the school with the grade 9s through 12s. And now actually there's talk or plans to change the name of the school. Apparently Chippewa is considered an insensitive name now. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's just the opinion of a lot of people. The school sits on Chippewa Street, right beside Chippewa Creek, so there's lots of things called Chippewa all around that area. Yeah, there were actually 6 high schools altogether in North Bay when I was a high school student. There are not that many anymore. I think there are 4 in town now. Because there was Woodfield, which closed down. There was West Ferris, which still exists. There was St. Joseph's, which was an all-girls school. And then Schollard Hall was an all-boys school. And then I believe St. Joseph's closed down and all the girls were moved into Schollard Hall, so it became a co-ed high school. It's a Catholic high school. And then a new French public high school was built called L'Odyssée, I think. I think I talked about all this in one of my previous North Bay videos, actually. As far as I know, nothing else has changed since then. All right, we're coming closer to the downtown area. Maybe I'll take Worthington here over to Castle Street. Algonquin Avenue continues on and then ends up ahead as you enter the downtown area. And if you continue this way, you'll eventually find yourself at Oak Street, and you can also turn onto Main Street and go through the heart of downtown. Just going to change hands. There's the North Bay Transit bus. It's nice that there's still Sunday bus service. Although the bus service has overall been gutted here in town since I left, especially since the pandemic. They really gutted the system then due to lack of ridership. But ridership is increasing almost back to normal now, but they still haven't restored the service back to what it used to be. Right up ahead is Greco's. We'll actually be walking behind Greco's over here. But the front entrance is right up ahead there. I did have some Greco's pizza during my visit here. Here's a very nice old walk-up apartment building. There aren't a whole lot of these in town. And the ones that we do have are usually not quite as big and grand as this one. I think this might be the nicest of them, actually. Brennan Court. I had some friends who lived in this building, so I spent quite a lot of time in one of the units there. It's very nice on the inside, very classic with nice traditional furnishings, or finishings, I should say. French doors and all that sort of thing. There's another old apartment building. Not as old or nice, though. This one's much more plain. Most of the housing stock in town is made up of detached houses of varying ages and conditions. Of course, around here you have the oldest housing stock. Some of it is quite run down in areas. In other neighborhoods, it's quite well kept. There's Greco's over there. And there are a fair number of apartment buildings scattered around town also that were built in the apartment building construction boom that started in the 1960s throughout the 70s and into the 80s, which affected most of the cities of Ontario. So you'll see little clusters of mid to high-rise apartment buildings scattered around town, although none of them are really more than 11 stories tall. Most of them are usually 5 to 7 stories tall. All right, here is Castle Street. Let's look on Worthington. So you got downtown really right over there. And Castle Street is a major street. It's sort of a mix of commercial and residential. It almost has the makings of a sort of neat little commercial strip. It's just not quite there. It's way too gappy. Some nice older homes here also. And this, once upon a time, was a Canadian Tire store. And Canadian Tire built a big new big box type store out in the suburban area, kind of close to where we began the video actually, in the north end of town. And that's now a Circle K. It has changed names a few times, I think. I remember it originally as a Mike Smart. Mike Smart was the name of the main chain of convenience stores around town. There's Dark Horse Comics. They've moved around quite a bit over the years too. I'm just glad they're still going. think I know at least one guy who works there, or used to. He might still work there. Crossing 2nd Avenue. So we're sort of coming away from the downtown area here. That big pink office building is a Government of Ontario building. See Canadore Apartments over there. I think that's just a new addition. That's an old building that just recently was converted to some student residences for Canadore College. And this is the old Grey Coach bus terminal. Now it's Huronia Oral Surgery Group. My hair was in my eyes. I couldn't even see what I was trying to read there. So if you went back a few decades, this is where you would catch the bus to Toronto. Back in those days, it would be a Grey Coach bus that you would catch from North Bay to Toronto. And there was like 5 bus bays over there. It was a pretty decent little bus terminal. Always busy and bustling. I think it was in the late 80s when the bus terminal relocated to where it is now. It's a shared facility now. It became a train and bus station. But then years later, the train service ended. So it sits on some tracks that are no longer being used for passenger service. And that would be the Northlander train that used to run between Toronto and North Bay and beyond, all the way up to Cochrane. But now, believe it or not, the Northlander is being reinstated. It's underway. I'm not sure what year that's supposed to actually happen, but it's underway. The wheels are in motion. There's some old commercial storefronts. I think this one has been converted to residential. Trendy thrifter. I think I went in there on my last visit to North Bay while I was live streaming with Megan, and we met the owner, and I think she subscribed to my channel. That's a newer building. That was never there before. There were some old sort of rundown houses there and some vacant land. I'm always pleasantly surprised when I see a new build in the older inner city parts of town. This is the North Bay Indigenous Friendship Center. This has been here a long time. This is a larger building than what was originally here, though. More businesses across the street. Golden China. I remember when another place called Music City occupied this building, and then they moved downtown. And then eventually they just closed down altogether. I think I walked by the old Music City building in another video I did yesterday, and the sign is still there. Tim Hortons. Another apartment building. Castle's Animal Hospital. That's been there a long time. I think it was originally a restaurant though when this building was first built. And we're going to walk by the landmark of Castle Street. That's the Crazy Junk House. I did a video of this last year. That video has racked up a decent number of views, actually. I think last time I looked it was over 12,000. Switch hands again, and we'll walk past the junk house. It's actually two houses now, as I mentioned in my previous video. It used to just be the one house. Actually, it looks like he's removed a lot of the stuff from the second house. Could have sworn there was more stuff during my previous visit. But this house is as packed with stuff as ever. Toronto had its dollhouse, which was just recently dismantled. Well, North Bay has this. There's quite a story behind that house and the owner. He's a very well-known character in town. This is another former Mike Smart, which is now a Circle K. Looks like Circle K has really taken over as the main chain in town now. You can see the stuff goes all the way around the house. It's not just in front. Chopsticks Chinese restaurant here. It's kind of a neat little commercial building. It's wedge shaped. I'll get a look at it here once I move away. I remember way back in the day, it was a Colonel Hoagie's submarine sandwich restaurant. But Chopsticks has been here for a long, long time now. There's a school up there called Dr. Carruthers, which I briefly attended because I was in the second grade, and my school burned down. Dr. McDougall, which I was going to, burned down in the middle of second grade. So all the kids Had to be transferred over to Dr. Carruthers over here just to finish out second grade. And then in third grade, we're all moved to another school further away called Laurentian. But then in the middle of third grade, or not even the middle, just not long after starting third grade, we moved. My family, we moved to a different neighborhood, so I had to switch to another school to finish off third grade. That was E.W. Norman in the Birchhaven neighborhood. And E.W. Norman is a school that was attended by a very famous Canadian when he was a child, and that guy's name is Michael J. Fox. Although that was before I went there. He's older than I am. I think he'd already left North Bay by the time I lived in that neighborhood and attended that school. He was an army brat, so he moved around quite a bit during his childhood. North Bay has a Canadian Forces base where his dad was transferred to for a time. This is also a newish apartment building here. There was a really run-down old house on that lot. I'm going to cross the street here. I'm going to continue on Castle Street though. I'm just going to go. The lights here take way too long. And if you don't press the button, oftentimes they don't even change at all. And both my hands are full right now. I'm not really in a button pushing sort of situation. All right, let me change hands again. It's not so much the weight of the bag, it's how the handles of the bag dig into my hand. It's like a duffel bag. And the handles really dig into my hand after a while. Get big red grooves running across my fingers or my palm. I always thought that was a cool church there, just how it's located on top of all these rocks. There's lots of this rocky sort of landscape around town. The Canadian Shield runs across a big chunk of the northern half of Ontario. Really the northern 3/4 of Ontario, really. It's just a really small sliver in the southernmost part of the province that isn't rocky and where you find most of the farmland. So when I used to go to 8th grade, there was a school over here called Centennial, and I would often walk through this church property here to get to the school. It has a bit of a shortcut. Centennial was the school that closed down, and all the 7th and 8th graders had to move over to Chippewa. And Chippewa is also close by, my old high school. Going to be crossing Chippewa Street, actually, just up ahead. And this is Princess Street, so this is the street I lived on. So a few blocks up. So I would walk down here, coming this way, across the street to go to junior high over there. Or I would continue north up to High Street here along Princess. And then Chippewa Secondary School was just a short jaunt along High Street. And I was going to say, that used to be a corner store over there that a lot of the students would come and access on their lunch breaks or things of that nature. I think it was called Morrison's. That seems to stand out in my mind. Duke Street. This is like my old stomping grounds, really, from the age of 12 all the way until I was, I think, about 23. So I was still living at home. I could say I sort of took my time leaving the nest. But once I was out, I was out. All right, so here's Chippewa Street. All right, I got a shady spot to stand in, and I'll put the bag down for a moment while we wait for the light. So my high school is just a couple blocks up there, the main entrance. And over there, you can't really see it, but the main hockey arena of the city is right up that way. It's called Memorial Gardens, as well as the YMCA. We might get a look at those buildings once we move a little bit further along Castle Street here. Somebody's getting a Domino's pizza delivered. So we talked about Chippewa High School. We crossed Chippewa Street. And now we're about to walk over Chippewa Creek. It's a good-sized creek that runs through a huge swath of the city, really. It eventually finds its way to Lake Nipissing. All right, I can see the bypass up ahead. And this is a brand new building. It was under construction last year when I was here. It was just a steel frame skeleton then. It's pretty close to completion now by the looks of it. That's the new castle home. It's a retirement residence. Wait for this guy, or should I go? I'll go. This little shopping plaza has been here forever. I think it was an A&P if you go back far enough in time. Beer store has been there forever too. I used to round up empty beer bottles when I was a kid and take them here to cash them in just to buy some chocolates and pop and chips and things like that, or maybe some Archie comics. They didn't have a problem at all with a young boy coming in with some empty beer bottles. I don't know if they'd still allow that or not. Look at that, we made it to the bypass, and there is Northgate Shopping Center right over there. So this is the Trans-Canada Highway. It sort of cuts midway through town. They call it the bypass because before this was built, all the highway traffic had to go directly through downtown along the main street. It's not a true expressway though. It does have these signalized intersections here. Once you get south of town though, it does become a limited access freeway with interchanges all the way to Toronto. So it's a quick drive really, about 3.5 hours. The bypass. So if you go that way and you keep on going that way, you'll be heading west. Eventually you'll hit Algonquin Avenue, which was where I began the video, and that's where you'll hang right to go north. But west, if you keep going, you'll eventually go through Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, and then you'll continue on into Western Canada. Alright, so this little shortcut is still here, thankfully. So I don't have to walk all the way around. So now we'll walk through some big parking lots. That'll take us to an entrance to the mall. This is the independent grocer. Not the most exciting content for a walking video here, admittedly. I used to come to this grocery store sometimes when I was still living in North Bay. Even though I used to live a good 25-minute walk away. I don't know if it's true, but someone told me once that they make the parking spaces in North Bay and other cities in Northern Ontario and smaller Southern Ontario cities too, a bit bigger than they make them in, say, a Toronto area mall parking lot, because people up here tend to have much larger vehicles. More often you'll see pickup trucks and that sort of thing. So I haven't actually measured the parking spaces and compared them or anything, but it's certainly true that you see way more pickup trucks and other larger vehicles here than you see in Toronto. Let's see if I can get through here without getting mowed down by some frenzied shoppers. So as you can see, the parking lot here for the Walmart is decently full. No doubt the store is probably rammed with people. But if you go downtown to Main Street right now, I guarantee it's a complete wasteland with tumbleweeds blowing down the street. Even though there are stores there that are open for business, people just don't go. Why stroll along a historic Main Street with some charming buildings and nice ambiance when you can just come and park your car here and walk across this giant parking lot and fight with a bunch of frenzied people in the local Walmart? And it's kind of ironic I say this, because when I lived in North Bay, I worked at this Walmart store for a little while. But I also worked at some places downtown on Main Street too. I worked at a local independent small grocery store that was located on Main Street. And I worked at a independent bookstore. But I've worked at a couple other places here in the mall also besides the Walmart. I worked at a kiosk that sold t-shirts, rock t-shirts, and other novelty type t-shirts. And I briefly worked at the Sears store that used to be located here. Of course, the Sears is gone now. And the t-shirt kiosk is gone now also. But the Walmart remains. It'll be the last thing standing. Go ahead in time to the future when every other store has closed down. The Walmart will still be there. It's like the cockroach of retail. Put my bag down just to open the doors to the mall here. And we're inside. So there's another entrance to Walmart. It has its own entrance also. This is Northgate Shopping Center. It's the reigning shopping mall of North Bay. It's a good size, actually. There's over 100 stores and services. Yeah, it's quite healthy. There are some vacancies, but they usually don't last for all too long before something else comes along. And on a Sunday, it's decently busy. We're not going to walk through the whole mall here. I do have a video, though, where I do walk through the whole mall from just over a year ago. It's the same video as the Crazy Junk House. That video is a walk from the Crazy Junk House to the mall. Well, I do a tour through here. The food court. Mind games over there. Urban Planet now occupies the former Sears store space. There's a vacant space here. But this is how you get to the bus station. I don't think I've ever shown the bus terminal in a video before. Use the press to open. So I don't have to keep putting my bag down. So there is the station. So there's railway tracks running right in front. Still used as I think a freight line, but no more passenger service until they finally do reinstate the Northlander. And they have a handy tunnel here to get under the tracks. I think there's a button here too. That's my bus.
Sunridge, Burks Falls, Huntsville, Bracebridge, Ravenhurst, Washego, Aurelia, Bering, 1407, Yorkdale, and Union City, Netman Road. Now boarding on platform number 3.
That is my bus. Got here just in time for boarding. And this is inside the station. It's actually fairly decent. That about does it for the tour. So I'm literally in line now waiting for my bus, so I'm going to start to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed the walk. Almost an hour long, or actually just over an hour now, from my mom's house here to the bus terminal by way of Algonquin Avenue and Castle Street, pointing out many tidbits, landmarks, and other bits of information along the way. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And also make sure you hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my videos. If you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal, as well as via my merch store. And you can find me on Instagram also under KContinuum. So thanks for watching. And thanks to all the channel members. And be sure to keep checking back because, as always, I will continue.